for tonight. Any questions from the brothers or the sisters here? Sensei?
Yeah, one quick question. Not dealing with the subject, but I want to ask you a question where it says, to give me some information on when is it permissible to make a dua against another Muslim?
When is it permissible to make dua against another Muslim? I would advise, if you have to ask Allah to give you your rights and to ask Allah to stop His servant from oppressing himself. I wouldn't necessarily advise or recommend making dua against a specific Muslim. Asking Allah to give you your haqq and asking Allah to guide that Muslim or those Muslims and for them to stop oppressing themselves and oppressing others. Now, the scholars of Islam, they differ on the permissibility or the impermissibility of cursing a specific person. A specific person, and pointing out a specific person in their dua for sin and mutiny that they make against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're being wronged by someone and you say, I'm going to make dua against you, so on and so forth, that's dangerous. You have to be very careful. And I would say, and Allah knows best, at best, ask Allah to give you your haqq and to deal with the people of oppression. But specifically making dua against a specific Muslim for Allah to punish them and so on and so forth is dangerous. I would say that, Sheikh. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. And many people, they abuse that and they weaponize that. We differ over an issue, I'm going to make dua against you. You look at me the wrong way, I'm going to make dua against you. A son and a father, they have a disagreement or an argument, I'm going to make dua against you. A child wants to do something that the parents don't want, I'm going to make dua against you. And it's a problem. First and foremost is, who said that it's lawful for you to make dua against a specific Muslim? If you have the proof and evidence for that, tayyib. But do you know that? And secondly, who said that you're right and he's wrong? And who said that Allah is going to answer your dua, not his? The haram wealth that you have, the sins, the people that you've wronged and oppressed. And did you forget? When you were younger, 30, 40 years ago, you didn't listen to your father and mother. You disobeyed your parents. You did stuff that they told you not to do. Who said that your slate was clean? So many people, they abuse dua and they think that they just, have the, I got the key to just, open it and close it when I want to. I'm going to get mine on Yom al-Qiyamah. Who said you're not going to be crying and scared and terrible? Who said you're not going to be in hell? Who said that? That you're going to have the upper hand on the day of judgment. I'm going to get mine on Yom al-Qiyamah. Who said that? So you got to be very careful. Many people, they make mistakes with regards to these things. Will people get their rights on the day of judgment? No doubt. Are there Muslims who oppress people? No doubt about that. But who said that you are in that state, right? To just, yay or nay. That's what I would advise with, Sheikh. And Allah knows best. Khair, inshallah. See if we take a few online.
So what about if somebody said, may Allah guide them or give them what they deserve?
That's dangerous as well. Asking Allah to give someone what they deserve specifically is dangerous. But sometimes, some people they cross the line so much. But I would make it in a general sense. In a general sense. Oh Allah, give the zalimeen what they deserve. Those who have oppressed us, so on and so forth. Or give us justice. Wallahu ta'ala alam, yani, if Allah gives us what we deserve, Allah musta'an, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you. That's a fact. Right? It's very dangerous. Wallahu alam. First question is coming from London. Initials AA. Are plaits permissible and does it get in the way of wudu or ghusl? The simplified answer is yes, it's permissible to have plaits and braids. And they don't necessarily get in the way of ghusl all of the time. Some instances or some issues, according to some scholars, There are some issues which are debatable, but in general, a person can make wudu and ghusl with plaits and braids. Of course, there are fiqh details of when and how. When and how, what type of plaits, man, woman, there are details. But the general simplified answer is that just because you have your hair braided or twisted, it doesn't mean that your wudu is invalid or your ghusl is invalid. That's wrong. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam, and that has been explained in other places. AA from the Bronx. Or should the father help out with baby diapers? Should the father help out, or should the father buy the diapers? In general, the father of the child is responsible for providing for the child, and there are certain times in which you have to provide for the mother of the child. Not child support just for the child, but for her as well, such as breastfeeding, right? In which you have to give her money, not just for the baby, but the woman herself. So be careful, guys, huh? Right? What they say, Sheikh? Be careful what? Be mindful, right? Wallahu alam. Tayyib. AA from Dublin, Ireland. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Is it allowed to keep a guard dog in a country that is generally regarded as safe, such as the UAE? Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The general answer, or the simplified answer, is some scholars have allowed the keeping of a guard dog if there's a need, even if it isn't a necessity, but a need for safety and protection. Not a farm dog or a sheep dog or a hunting dog, but a guard dog. And some scholars who have allowed that of the modern age, they say based off of a need of security. If there's no security need, if it's a generally safe place, then no. Now, if you are going to have a dog for security or hunting, etc., 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 then be mindful of the dog suiting a need versus the dog being your pet. Now, it's human nature for you to forge a relationship with a thing. Not a person, but a what? A thing. Your car. That gets you from point A to point B. You're going to what? Forge a relationship with it. Certain things, your tools, the things that you have, you're going to, it's natural. Even if the thing is an inanimate object. I'm talking about human now, let alone a thing that has a soul. So if you have a dog, the dog's not my pet, I hunt with the dog, it's lawful for me to hunt with the dog. It's only natural, it's nothing but a matter of time before what? Some type of attachment. The dog keeps you safe, the dog provides this service for you, you feed the dog loves the one that feeds it and gives it water. It's natural. The dog is going to have an attachment with you, and you what? With the dog. But you can't go but so far, in which the dog is 90% pet, 10% hunting. 90% guard, 90% pet, 10% guard dog. That's where you go astray. And that's when you're going to fall into the prohibition of having a dog. The dog suits a purpose. I treat the dog kindly. I respect the dog. Argument's sake. You love the dog. Human nature. Dog keeps you safe and protects you by Allah's permission. You're going to have some respect with the animal. But it can't be, oh, come here, give me a hug, give me a kiss. Oh, I brought you some biscuits, such and such, such and such. Come here. That's a different story. And you become obsessed with the dog, right? And you have the dog in places and times in which you don't need the dog. And no doubt, you've now fallen into the prohibition. Everyone understand this? And there's a slippery slope. Wallahu alam. The next question is coming from Atlanta, Georgia. Initials RS. If a sister is considering marrying a revert brother, what things should she take into consideration? Well, first and foremost is getting rid of prejudice. Get all of those, prejudices out of your head. Empty your cup. Empty your cup. Let everything come out your cup. Just because you're born Muslim, you're automatically better. True Muslims are those that are born. If you're a non-Muslim, then it means you did a million haram, bad, evil things when you were a non-Muslim. So on and so on and so forth. If you're a non-Muslim, you reverted, you come with baggage. Those are all prejudices. There are people who are born Muslim and then taken away from their fitrah which were more honest, more honorable, had greater morality than those who were born and raised Muslims their whole lives. There are people who were born and raised Muslims who made zina, who are womanizers, and there are people that were, raised Christian or raised whatever and kept their virginity. That's a prejudice. Automatically, just because a person is a revert, he slept around with 100 women. Who said that? It doesn't mean that. Just because you're born Muslim doesn't mean you have better faith. In most cases, the one who comes to the light has a greater appreciation for the light than the one who doesn't know anything from darkness. So my first piece of advice to you is to get rid of those prejudices that many Muslims have. And I've heard many of those filthy, filthy statements from people with just pure racism and prejudice against those who revert to Islam. You'd be shocked the stuff that you hear, right? Of just pure, absolute ignorance with regards to someone who comes from a Muslim country versus someone who accepted Islam later on, and them automatically thinking and feeling that they're above and they're better, and they don't even practice the deen, all right? Secondly is, I would say, make sure that you have clear communication and clear discussion with this potential spouse. Be clear, be on the same page, what your expectations are, what type of person you are. And there's some things which somebody may say you can never understand because you were born and raised Muslim. And there's some things that the born and raised Muslim may say, vice versa. You won't be able to get it, you're a Jawala scholar, right? Back in the day, such and such versus someone who came into the masjid, came into Islam, was never a what? Certain things you just may not be able to get. So if you guys are going to click and mesh, make sure that you what? You discuss that and lay it on the table clearly, right? Number 3, any fears or doubts that you have based off of a person reverting to Islam, ask about them and investigate them. And you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if he's a good person for you, he'll be a good person for you, regardless of how long he or she has been a Muslim. That's the bottom line. Tawfiq is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah's tawfiq is not restricted, is not bound by formalities. Because the woman that you marry is younger than you, you're going to be happy. Because the woman that you marry is such and such, you're going to be happy. Because you marry a woman that's a virgin, you're going to be happy. A formality of culture. Allah's tawfiq is not restricted by those what? Formalities. Sometimes the formalities lead to better chemistry, yes. But it isn't a must. So that's my advice to you. And Allah surely knows best. The next question is coming from IT, California. Next question. SHDC. Assalamu alaikum. Sheikh, what is the best way to process reminders? I've read the companions radiallahu anhum used to think reminders were about them. Barakallahu feek. Well, first and foremost is understanding what's said to you. Understanding of the words. And secondly, once you understand the actual words, you apply it to your own life. And the general rule is that those who fear hypocrisy are believers, and those who feel and think that they're believers, in most cases, are munafiqun. Thinking that you're saved, you have nothing to worry about, versus I'm doomed, and this is talking about me. But with the proper balance and never going to the extreme. Also, is taking the reminder into practicality and taking a reminder in the lens or through the lens of obligatory, recommended. There's a percentage of the wealth that you have to pay in zakat, not everything. So everything that you hear and benefit from, you may not be able to do, or you may not be required to do. Wallahu alam. Next question is coming from UM, Oakland, California. Assalamu alaikum. If we miss Sunnah prayers, such as duha, can we make them up as in what order if wajib prayers came in already? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There are some Sunnah prayers that you are allowed to make up. Sunnah prayers that you would normally make is from your way to normally perform them. And there was a reason or an excuse, something that prevented you from making those Sunnah prayers, certain Sunnah prayers. You make them at a time in which is before, after, or during, well, obviously not during, the fard, witr, the nawafil, the rawatib that you would normally make, and something prevented you. not the case, you normally don't make them, and nothing stopped you, then that's a different story. Wallahu ta'ala alam. MS from Dallas, Texas. How should zakat be paid and where should it come from? We've done classes and lectures on that. There are playlists on zakat. What's important is that there are different types of wealth, possessions that you have to pay zakat for. It doesn't, all zakat isn't the same. It's not 2.5 on everything. Certain things you pay 2.5 of. So it depends on what you have to have. If you have cash, savings, if you have farmland, animals, livestock. Okay, some scholars say jewelry, gold and silver for a woman, etc. You have buildings, you have properties, 401k, right? Money that people owe you. It depends. Wallahu alam. Sheikh Qasim. Wa salam wa barakatuh.
This is a very long hadith. I wanted to ask you about this hadith because some of the Sahabas had difference of opinion on this. Does the deceased person get punished if somebody wails over them? Like the family member wails over a deceased body, do they get punished for that?
Understood. Tayyib, this is our last question tonight, inshallah. And the answer is yes and no. There lies no doubt that the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ الْمَيِّتَ لَيُعَذَّبُ بِبُكَاءِ أَهْلِهِ عَلَيْهِ. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. It's an authentic hadith, no doubt about that, that the deceased person will be punished for the crying of his family members. There's no doubt about the authenticity of that. What does that mean? And what the Sahaba said about that, and did some of the Sahaba reject that hadith? Not because they were hadith rejectors, but because they believed that the Sahabi made an error in narrating it, etc., etc., etc. What's important is that interpretation number one is that the one who encourages his family members to shriek and wail. Answer number two is the one who doesn't instruct and tell and teach his family on how to behave at the janazah. One who ignores and neglects his family members, he didn't teach them the sunnah of the janazah, he's responsible for them wailing and shrieking, so on and so forth. And there are other answers from the ulama of Islam with regards to that. In comparison to Allah's statement, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَزِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. Allah says, no bearer of burdens shall bear the burdens of another bearer of burdens. In other words, simple terms, no Muslim is responsible for the disobedience of another person. But the hadith clearly states, yu'adhab, he will be punished. And what's meant by crying is the shrieking, the wailing, the hollering, screaming out loud, and not just actual tears falling and a person being sad and in an emotional state. So therefore, the correct understanding is that the hadith, no doubt about it, is applicable to those who are responsible for their flock. They ignore their flock. They don't give their flock what they needed or what they need, and now they're disobeying Allah. You have to bear some of that responsibility. And last but not least, some of the people of knowledge may say and have said, with regards to these types of hadiths, leave them as they are. Period. Don't interpret them. Don't put an interpretation. Leave it as it is. Pushing and shunning the people away from this act. And of course, what's meant by crying isn't just normal crying, but والله تعالى أعلم. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وجزاكم الله خيرا.